Hey guys, how's it going? Just want to do a 10-hour review of my 2025 YZ250FX. Got a piece of paper today because otherwise I forget everything I'm trying to say. I start down the road, square a moment, I'll go off on a tangent. So anyway, we got 10 and a half hours on this bike so far. And in that 10 and a half hours, we have a mix of training. We have a GNCC race, 2-hour one in the morning. And we also have a 61-mile enduro. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good mix of riding in the first 10 hours to see how I like the bike. And I have a lot of likes and I have a couple of dislikes. Let's start off with the dislikes and get them out of the way. And then we'll move on to what I really like about this bike. So number one, I've made some comments about the on and off throttle. The on and off throttle on this bike is only an issue when you're kind of just cruising from like to a trailhead or something like that, or if you're really trying to stay in first gear and manipulate that throttle a little bit on and off. Aside from that, it's fine when you're riding down a trail or on off while you're kind of doing like a faster pace, not a problem. So that's number one complaint. It's not really a big complaint, just comparing it to my 450FX, that throttle response is so smooth from on off the roll on. It's one of the smoothest I've ever felt on a dirt bike. So let's move on from that because that's a pretty minor one. Cold starting. So this bike does not like to start when cold, and I'm not talking about cold temperatures. I just mean when first firing of the bike, anywhere from 50 degrees to 70 degrees, I have to use my cold start button or I have to give it a little throttle. Otherwise, it'll fire and it'll kind of fire and shut right off. And I have to do that 2 times, 3 times before it'll stay running. Now, if I hit the cold start button and I fire the bike, fires up immediately, runs, never stalls, nothing like that. I've checked the idle. The idle is set properly. Use the tuner app. You can see where it's idling, what RPMs. So that's not the problem. And yeah, just kind of an oddball thing. But yeah, when it's hot, and when I mean hot, like, so not like just barely warming it up, get it to like 130 degrees. It still will have that issue starting. When you get hot, like operating temperature, and then you refire it, man, it immediately fires. So there's no issue there. Okay, so that's another one. Clutch is number 3. So the cable clutch is taking me a little bit to get used to it again, and it just seems very on and off to me. So there's not much of a progression where I can like manipulate it. It just, and that was surprising to me, but it has gotten better over with putting a couple hours on this bike. So I also wasn't in love with the stock setup. So right now, that's pretty much my only modification is I did an ARC composite clutch lever with the perch, which gives me a nice aluminum, adjuster for clutch, the free play and everything. So that's been a lot better. Putting more hours on this bike, I have grown accustomed to it. So maybe it's just the difference of going between a cable clutch and to my 450's got a hydraulic clutch on it. Maybe that's all it is. But anyway, I just thought I'd touch on that. Number 4 is the bike is actually too narrow. And this is a love and hate because I really love how narrow it is. But for me, I have longer legs than I do torso. And I'm 5'9", just so you know. And pinch points right here. When I'm trying to grab the bike, it just seems real narrow. And what that led to over that 60-mile enduro was just a little arm fatigue. So my arms ballooned up in the very first test, but then went away. And that's kind of normal for me. I usually get the arm pump because in FTR racing, we have a practice lap. I usually get a little pump there, and then for the race, I'm good to go. So by test 2, arm pump went away. But towards the end of that enduro, my clutch finger actually just started cramping up my forearm. And it was locking to the bar, which was not a great thing. It's happened to me in the past. So I'm not going to say it's not a problem on my end, just bringing that up. I ordered a gut seat with the RJ wing seat to hopefully fix that issue, give me a little more width right there at the skinniest part of the bike to allow me to grab the bike with my legs, to take some of that pressure off the arms. And number 5, the bike is a lot quieter than the 250F model, but it is still loud. I wear earplugs every time I ride this bike because you go wide open throttle or really rev it out, it's loud. I mean, and then, you know, stock cover, no modifications to the airbox at all. It's loud. So that's it. That's my only complaint so far on this bike. Now let's go to my likes. The likes are a little more, there's not so many of them because it's basically the whole bike, okay? Number 1, we're going to start off with the engine. So super responsive. The way it revs very fast, and that quick revving makes it feel light and very racy. So when you're riding this bike and you're, you know, going on and off the throttle, like blipping it and stuff, it just revs so quick and it's so crisp that it puts a smile on my face. It really is fun to ride, right? And it makes you want to ride this bike more aggressive. All right. What I'm running for maps is still the same. I'm running either the level 7 on the Yamaha tuner app, which brings me to a point. I don't have any of the like Yamaha the stock apps. Like, you know, if you've seen the app, when it's a Yamaha app, it will be like coated in blue. I don't have any of those. So if anybody knows, put them in the comments below where I can grab those. And to be fair, I haven't really looked for them very hard. So, because I'm using that slider for level 7, so most aggressive, no traction control, and then Chris Kiefer's Freefeeling 2.0 map. Those 2 maps I'm happy with, and to be honest, I'm not really looking to change them because I don't feel like the bike is lacking anywhere or I need more low-end torque. It's been pretty good. That being said, the GNCC, I did not realize I had those 2 maps loaded and somehow I missed. I had traction control on not maximum, but like high, on level high. And it was pretty good. I didn't notice anything negative about having the traction control on. So I'm going to do some more testing on that and maybe do a lap comparison, do levels of traction control to see if maybe it's helping me. Because if you guys have been around for a while, you'll know on my KTM 350, there was differences in lap times and a different feeling. I was getting this like weird thrust sensation with traction control on. I don't get that with Yamaha, which is actually a good thing. That means it's just more better tuned, I guess you could say, or it's the mapping is better of it. I shouldn't say mapping of it. The technology maybe is better. I don't know. We'll dig more into that later. Yeah, so power curve for the engine. It's just very smooth and long. I mean, this thing seems like it just revs forever. It has good low end. I don't feel like it's lacking low end for a 250, and then it will rev to the moon. But where it really shines is I love the mid range of the bike. So if you've watched the channel, you know I'm not really a lugger. I really am a mid-range rider. I do like to be more towards that lugging side of things. I don't love to be on the limiter. Never really hit the limiter on my bikes. It's usually an accident if I do. What else can I say? Yeah, it loves to rev, but it still has that luggability for a 250. Let's move on to suspension and handling. Suspension and handling. So the suspension is stiff on this bike. I'm 170 pounds, excuse me. 170 pounds. I fluctuate between like 168 and 172, and I'm 5'9" and a half. Gotta get that half an inch, right? Where you can. But anyway, I'm not planning to revalve or respring this bike just yet. I got about 2-3 inches of travel most of the time left on the forks. I still have some adjustability to go on my clickers. I will put in exactly what the clickers are because I don't remember. I just did some testing and made a lot of clicks. Basically what that entailed was I was going through a pretty rough section and I was having my buddy watch me on the bike. He was giving me some information and we were making adjustments there, as well as how I felt, you know, what if the bike was kicking me, if it was tracking straight. So anyway, I do know I'm 15 clicks out on compression up front. and I think around 10 or so for rebound. But like I said, I'll do all my clickers and I'll report. I'll put it in the video. The valving of the bike feels good. No complaints with that, aside from it being a little stiff. It has broken in a little bit. It has gotten a little softer. I noticed it probably towards end of GNCC, middle part of the Enduro. I just overall felt like it got a little bit softer. And that's because just hours, putting hours on the bike. And yeah, that's why I got my notes. The bike only feels real stiff when you're kind of cruising around at like a trail rider's pace. As soon as you start picking it up and try and get into your race pace, and I'm a 40 plus B rider, just so you know, so to give you an idea of my pace. As soon as I pick up the pace, the suspension really feels good, right? It's on the stiff side, but it feels good. The valving of it, the holdup of it, it really helps as well being on the stiffer side to really cut through the sand. It slices through the sand where I feel like some of my bikes that were set up softer, where you really get that, it digs in and it kind of slows you down. It stops your momentum, where this kind of just knifes through it and it feels much better. So that's another reason why I think I'm going to just leave it the way it is right now, and it's giving me a lot of front end confidence. And that's something I don't want to lose. If you, again, I'll reiterate, if you've been around this channel for a while, I have problems. I love feeling what my front end is going to do. It probably comes from all my years of road, not racing, but I've road raced, but riding track days on road bikes. So I really need that front end confidence, because on the road, you're not really sliding very much. I mean, you slide too much, you're low siding and you're crashing, right? It's not like a dirt bike. I mean, that freaking front end's always sliding around and it gets up here. But anyway, the front end on this motorcycle gives me a lot of confidence. What that is translating to, is giving more confidence coming into the corners. So I have initial tip in, my corner speed's increased, and then all the way to the apex. Exiting the turn after the apex, it kind of changes, because then, you're transferring that weight to the rear wheel, getting on the clutch or clutching it, getting on the power, I should say, and pulling out. So any of my other bikes, that really wasn't an issue, steering off the rear wheel. But coming into the corners and my front tire, me having a lack of trust in it was the problem. So this bike has actually been the best so far. Yeah, I have a lot of trust in that front end. Feels amazing. So I don't want to touch it because of that right now. Yeah, how flickable the bike is side to side with the trust in that front tire, it's giving me the ability to be more aggressive. So going for passes, coming into corners, all that, it's just, I'm happy with it. So that's why I don't want to touch it. Now, if it comes down the road and I feel like something is, maybe it is just a little too stiff, or something with the valving is way off, but I don't really see that happening. I could always take my 450s front forks that are redone by Factory Connection and throw them on here and see how I feel. So that's an option. So we'll see how it goes. But that's about it. Added bonus, is moto tracks, like vet-friendly motocross tracks. The suspension is great because it's got plenty of hold up for me. I'm not bottoming it, even on some decent-sized jumps. I'm not doing any triples or anything like that. So if you're a vet rider, just kind of cruising around on motocross tracks and not really, fast guy out there, suspension holds up perfectly fine on the moto course. And like I said, I'm several clicks out. I can go much stiffer than it is right now. So that about wraps it up for the suspension. Let's move on to gearing. Gearing, I think Yamaha really nailed the gearing on this bike, because I don't feel like there's many gaps. My only complaint is first gear could be a tad lower when you're really trying to crawl through some tight wood sections. I'll do some more testing on that, because I haven't really been riding really tight woods lately. So I'll report back on that, but second and third gear are magical because I feel like you can definitely overlap them. So if you want to rev the bike out more, stay in second. If you want to lug the bike and abuse your clutch a little more, stay in third. And truth be told, third gear, if I can stay in third gear on these trails, and it's like magic because it's not revving as high, so the chassis is nice and loose, and I can just get in a really good flow state in third gear. So yeah, second and third have been my two magic gears, and they're really long gears. So you can, man, like I said, like second and third, primarily, unless I'm heading straightaways or something like that. Those are my two gears. And yeah, so make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I never feel like I'm caught in between gears, like on my 450FX. Second and third, I'm always fighting. Like I feel like second gear, it's kind of revving it too much. It's not as broad as this 250's power window, right? So I don't have a lot of over rev like I do on this. So yeah, second and third, I kind of fight on that bike. This bike, I almost was like, whatever, second gear, all right, just rev it a little more. Third gear, all right, lug it a little more. I'm good to go so far. Obviously, it's going to change as I ride it in much different conditions, different courses, but so far, the two races I've done on it, it's been perfect. So I really think Yamaha did a great job on the spacing. Yep, that's all I have for the gearing. I really think they just nailed it for cross-country racing style. So, yeah, that's about it. In conclusion, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I've always enjoyed the 250FX platform. Never owned one. So I finally pulled the trigger and bought one, and I'm really happy with my purchase. I can't lie, guys. This bike puts a smile on my face. And I don't know, every time I ride it, I just feel like a lot more racy on this bike compared to my 450, where I kind of get lulled into running at a gear higher and kind of being lazy on it. And this bike just excites me. It just, I don't know, something about it. And yeah, if you like the old one and you're looking to upgrade, I'd say they took the old recipe, they opened up the cockpit, they made it narrower, and kept that same great engine. So yeah, I approve. 2 thumbs up. I'm really excited to keep on riding this bike and see where it goes from there. Yeah, I'll just keep giving you updates as I get more hours and more races on this bike. But if you like this video, please hit the like button down below. If you enjoy my content, consider subscribing. But anyway, thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.